So, hello everybody. My name is Timo,
And I'm Taki'h. Welcome.
and we're gonna talk about ejaculation choice. And we hold groups, and we get a lot of questions about this subject. And there are like scattered bits and pieces of information on this all around. And we decided to just share everything we know about the subject and just put it all out there in one go. And what I'm gonna share is from my own experience, and I started practicing this when I was over 40. So what I'm gonna share might or might not apply to the men who are in younger bodies or older bodies. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, I've been running groups now for a decade for women, for mixed, for couples, and this is a question that often comes up. So much so that just last weekend I was running a women's online group online, and we were working with sexuality, and we were discussing orgasm, and the question came, oh, can men also have full body orgasms or multiple orgasms? And so there's a lot of ignorance around what's possible for those in men's bodies, and also how those in women's bodies can support that if a man is in a relationship with a woman, to go into choosing whether he ejaculates or not. And for us, it's something we believe that everybody should know about. It's something that would benefit everybody, which is why also kind of groundbreakingly, we've made this masterclass available to everybody, open to everybody, those in women's bodies, those in men's bodies, and couples, because we truly believe that everybody can benefit and has a role to play in this. And the intention actually is for deeper intimacy.
Yeah. And ejaculation usually happens at the same time in orgasm. So they're mixed, or they are thought to be the same, which is not the case. And with practice, you can start to separate the ejaculation and the orgasm.
So I just wanted to say that we know that some of you who are watching are already practicing choice around ejaculation to some extent, and maybe just want to see if there's anything you didn't already know about. Some of you, it might be the first time you're going to give it a shot, and you've decided, okay, why not listen to this? It's free. It's a Tuesday night. Let's go for it. And some of you might be working with this professionally, like for example, tantra massage or some other kind of work where counseling couples or other things. So we know that there's a wide range of people who are tuning in right now or who will be watching the replay. So we're going to cover everything, the full range, from 0 to 100 as much as we can. And we know that some of it might be repeat, some of it for you, or you might have other experiences. At the end of our sharing, we welcome you to share your experience or ask any questions. But for now, we're just going to go through and share what we have so that we can get through it. And then afterwards, we'd love to have a discussion, open space. But we're coming from the premise that, which we believe is pretty accurate, that our conditioning is that sex means penetration of penis into vagina, possibly anus, possibly, and equals ejaculation. So this is the standard formula you get when you find out what is sex about, whether that was directly in school or in the playground somewhere or in the bedroom when you first started to explore sexuality. Sex equals penetration equals ejaculation. So we're starting from that premise, and we're going to start deconstructing that.
Yeah. And for the ones who have not so much experience about this practice is not about not having orgasms. It's something quite the opposite. Is actually having more orgasms for the man. And it's just, they're going to be different orgasms. As an ejaculatory orgasm is usually, it's a line that goes up and it peaks, and then there's a drop or even a crash sometimes. As a non-ejaculatory orgasm is usually more like a wave, and there isn't a big drop. It's more of a wave, and it's more everywhere. So we'll get more into that later.
Yeah. So for us, we want to make sure that you understand that we're not talking about that you shouldn't have pleasure or you shouldn't have orgasm. That's not the case. Pleasure is definitely a part of it. And in fact, when you can choose, then the pleasure actually increases a huge amount if you're in a man's body.
Yeah.
And if you're in a woman's body and you are with that man.
Yeah. So then we want to start with why.
Yeah.
Why would you want to practice this ejaculation choice?
Right. So this is, if you read the event that we put up, we spoke about some of the reasons that are the standard reasons of why. I just want to invite you to take a moment and close your eyes. Everybody, whoever's listening right now, just take a moment, close your eyes, and connect to your own why. Connect to the why you want to support, if you're in a supporting role here. What's your yes about? And if you are in a man's body and you want to practice this or go deeper into it, explore it or go deeper into it, why? Another minute. Okay, and so we really believe that the why is the foundation stone of everything else, and we'll be sharing about that. You'll be hearing us as we go. Why is going to be the how and the what, and all of that depends on the why.
And a bit you might have noticed that we use ejaculation choice when usually what you hear is ejaculation control, or you're practicing non-ejaculation. But as some of you who know us, we are big believers in options and in inner freedom. And inner freedom meaning that you have many places to go within yourself. You have options to go and places to visit, and then you have a freedom to choose in each moment what you want to do, and that's real freedom.
Yes. So in no way are we saying you should not ejaculate. So I want to make that clear from the beginning. This is not about you should not ejaculate, and we don't believe that that's necessarily the right move for anybody. That's up to you to decide. It's about having the freedom of choice.
Yeah. So back to the why. We believe that the why is the strength of it is based on who is it for, and that it honors all parts of you. We have a higher self, a higher consciousness, a soul part to ourselves, but we also have an animal body, our earthy animal part. And then we have a masculine side and a feminine side. And we believe that the why, there needs to be a yes from all of those parts for this to be sustainable. So a lot of times you hear reasons why to practice non-ejaculation or choice or control is that it will make you a better lover. It will make you last longer so that you can pleasure your partner better. It will make you the dude. You're the one who can have sex for hours. And while those are nice byproducts of this practice, but they are still based on the core belief that you're not enough as you are, that you need to perform, you need to do something to be accepted. and that's a wounded place. Then there are reasons that are for you, but are not, in our opinion, taking into consideration all parts of you. Like, for example, using the sexual energy just to go up, to reach higher states of consciousness. It's a very masculine yogic way. And to us, that feels that that's your higher consciousness colonizing your animal body, like using it for its purpose. And that leaves the animal body not in the picture. And you might just find out at some point that your animal's going to rebel. And that's not going to be good for sustaining this practice. And what then the reasons that I found out that are sustainable are the ones that really do take into consideration all parts of you. That there's something for your higher self, there's something for your animal, there's something for your masculine, and there's something for your feminine also. And I'll explain a little bit what my approach has been to this practice, and how from that approach comes the reasons why I believe it's worth to practice ejaculation choice. So my approach has been that you drop the goal. There is no goal to ejaculate. There's no goal to not ejaculate. Because having a goal takes you into the future. Having a plan in your head that this lovemaking is going to go so and so is taking your awareness away from this moment, because you're going to be focusing on the future. So when you drop that opens you up to be more present, that you're already reached, that you're already there. So then that brings in this timelessness, there's no hurry to get anywhere. And then to drop the performance pressure that anything should happen. Then you'll drop any inner judgment, and then your mind can rest, that there isn't anything needs to be concerned. Am I doing something wrong, or am I doing something right? And this then, to have no goal and to have no judgment, opens this door to this being of full presence and awareness of what there is right now. And from that, magical things start to happen. And now we get to the part of why. And so, yeah.
I just want to say that, it's a very common thing. If you say to somebody, okay, don't look over there, most likely the first thing they're going to do is go, right, look over there. So if I keep saying in my mind, I shouldn't come, or don't come, or I'm not going to come, or come, ejaculate, whatever words you want to use, you're most likely, you're so focused on ejaculation that it's, you're bound to kind of hit it. You're bound to end up there. So yeah, it's a way of just actually being here. I'm here. I'm enjoying this moment. I'm fully here. And there's nothing that I need to be concerned about in the future. I'm here.
Yeah. So then the reasons that are, for me, the key reasons why is from that space, what starts to happen is that you will have more time to make love. So from that comes this, you'll start to feel more. You actually start to feel more pleasure because there is more time to feel it. And scarcity around making love or sex starts to disappear. And then when there's no scarcity of getting anywhere, then you'll have time to explore all kinds of things, like slow lovemaking, which is a really good practice. Slow meaning like really slowing down to the point of also not moving at all. That's a really beautiful place to start resynthesizing yourself, especially your cock. And then you're gonna start having orgasms without ejaculation, and multiple orgasms and full body orgasms. It's also gonna deepen your connection with your partner, just because there's more awareness and there's more presence and there's more time. And it will change your lovemaking from what we men usually have, like there is a one line that we're gonna follow. Okay, it can go a little bit different ways each way, but it's gonna end up in ejaculation.
Linear.
A linear line, yes. It's gonna change your lovemaking into a web that you don't know where you're gonna end up. And that's a very beautiful place to be, that you will be in this, like, you don't know where you're going to end up, and there's going to be mystery in it. And I also just said that it's going to remove the performance pressure, which is a big thing for men. It's amazing to make love without needing to perform. And also the whole universe that can open from going into energetic lovemaking. So as a summary, this has really redefined to me what is lovemaking and what is possible in lovemaking.
Do you want to say a little bit about how it started for you?
Well, yeah, for me it started not so high up there. It just started that first I was pretty numb in my body and in my cock, so I wanted to feel more. And also, at the time, we weren't using any birth control, and I was a bit scared to get pregnant. So there were very practical reasons, and then all these other reasons just like came as a bonus.
Right. So again, your why doesn't have to be that I want to meet God. It can be, but that the why be integrated, be a holistic reason, and that your why prioritizes you. Right? It's not, especially those in men's bodies. I'm talking to those in men's bodies right now. That your why of going into choosing whether you have an ejaculation or not is about you. It's not about your partner primarily. So yes, we care about our partners. Yes, they are important. Love them and be connected to them and all of that. But that this is something you want to explore for yourself. So Timo shared that his why was mixed. It was partly because he wanted to feel more, but partly also because he wanted to avoid pregnancy. And by then we had been together and we'd gotten tested and we were exclusive. And so we didn't want to use condoms anymore. And he didn't want to become a father from scratch all over again. So these were the determining factors. So whatever's going to motivate you, but it's going to be inclusive of all of you.
Yeah.
So now how does the why lead to the how? So if your why is about somebody else or about colonizing your body or some of these other more stereotypical or ego boosting, then the how is going to be very different. But when the why is holistic and it's integrating all of you and it has you, those in men's bodies, at the center, with those in women's bodies as support, then the how is going to be more like what we're going to share here.
Yeah. And it is true that we as men, we are going a bit against our nature here, because we are wired to procreate, to make babies, and that means ejaculating. And that also means that when there's a tiger coming or something, is not to take our time with it. So it does need practice to shift from that when there's a penetration, it's always going to lead into ejaculation. To shift that from reaching these states of full awareness and presence where there's no goal and no pressure, and to really have a real choice if you want to ejaculate, and then to get all the other perks and benefits that I was talking earlier. So I would say start practicing self-pleasuring with yourself first.
Yeah, so this having a solo practice that you can sustain is, in my opinion, with the partners I've had before, uh, a distinguishing factor on whether you can sustain this as a practice, as a real choice or not. If you do not have your self practice and you're not well established in that first, then it's going to be very difficult or much more challenging to establish yourself in this practicing with your partner.
Yeah. So when you practice on your own, you have all the time you need. You have no other external inputs to your system, and hopefully, no performance pressure. So how do you self-pleasure is actually how you training your system to make love.
So most people, and yes, those in men's bodies perhaps more so than those in women's bodies, there's a conditioning you have around self-pleasuring because of how it started when you were a teenager or however old you were when you first started self-pleasuring. It was to release energy because all these hormones are all of a sudden running through and like, oh, what am I going to do? Or, there's all arousal, or you're attracted to somebody, but you're not in a relationship with them, or you're not having sex, and there's all this moving through, and you're living at home, and people can hear you, and there's one bathroom, or whatever the situation is. Yeah, so it's like quick, fast and quick, and let's get it over and done with. So it's to release energy, and it's fast and it's quick, and that's the conditioning, that's the imprint your body will carry around self-pleasuring or masturbation.
Yeah. So then points how to move away from that is, first I would get to really know your body. Like, how does it want to be touched? How is it to touch it here or there? Or how is it actually wanting, from this curious place of not this is how I've always done, but to really explore and start to find out how's your erection, how does it come, and how does it go, and start resynthesizing your body and your cock. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then another point, a key point, is to find out where are you in your erection, how close you are to ejaculation. So there is this term called point of no return. And so if you take your erection from 0 of having no erection to 10 that you're going to ejaculate. So there's somewhere, maybe say 9, there's a point where you're so aroused and that your body starts the sequence which will end up into ejaculation. And it might take a few seconds, or it might even take half a minute. But once the sequence has started, there's no way of stopping it. So to find out where you are on that scale, what is your 5, where you can easily go down on it, where you start to get so close that it gets harder and harder to come down from it. And we'll talk about also later from that of how to come down from that. And yeah, and then another point is to really shift from getting aroused in your head. This is common for a lot of men, that the arousal comes from the mind. It comes a lot of times from visual, and whether they're visual fantasies inside your head or something that you're looking your partner, and they're looking really hot, and you get aroused because of that, and start shifting that from really feeling that the arousal comes from your body. So no mind, no fantasies, and in this I would highly suggest at least when you practice, to like go cold turkey on porn. Quit watching porn, because porn wires you to, it's highly visual, it's fast, and it's hard, and the mainstream porn at least always ends up in ejaculation, and that's not the imprint you're trying to give your body here. More of a observe how the erection starts from your body, just like letting it happen. And three key things there is to relax. It's you'll find out, if you haven't already, that it's a totally different place to get an erection from a relaxed place than from a contraction place. And know that you can like force your erection, like when you're trying to squeeze the last bits of pee out of your penis, you can force your erection, you can try to make it harder, and this is totally opposite of that. Like, don't try to use your pelvic muscles to get more erect. And this is a bit scary first, because it somehow feels that if you're fully relaxed, there won't be any erection. So we might need some time for your body to like rediscover that yes, it's possible, and it's a different type of erection, and it will be more sustainable, it will be more holistic, it will be more beneficial for later in this practice, if the erection comes from relaxed body and not from your mind.
And I just wanted to comment on erection. Not that I have a penis that I was born with, I don't, but I do know about penises, and that there is, there's the no erection stage, and then assume that you could dissect your erection in 4 parts. Yeah, there's the no erection, there's like a quarter erection, like a bit hard, and then there's like halfway hard, or then there's like 3/4 hard, and there's like fully erect hard. Yeah, and so you are more likely to feel more when you're not at 100%. Actually,
yeah.
You are less sensitive when you are at 100% erection, from what I've been told. Yeah. And so that when Timo was saying that the erection will be different, that it doesn't mean that it will be less in any way, but just to keep in mind and to start exploring for yourself that, okay, how is it when I'm a bit erect, and how is arousal then, and how is self-pleasuring then, and how is it when I'm half, or I'm mostly but not fully, and then compared to how is it when it's full. So to do that little experiment with yourself is also very powerful.
Yeah. So then when you have that kind of erection, then what you want to practice is not to spread it, not to let it stay only in the genitals, only in the pelvic area. That's really going to help you.
So like not to let the energy...
Yeah, not to let the energy get stuck, that you're only like really fully concentrated in your genitals. And we'll talk about that later. There's the 3 friends of yours, is breath, sound, and movement, that we're going to talk about later. Use these in your self-practice also to spread the energy, and start like touch yourself lightly and spread it. We'll talk about it into it later, but the thing is to spread it.
The energy.
Just spread the energy, yes.
Yeah.
And then when the energy dissipates, that's also going to happen. Okay, you build it up, you see where it's coming from, you spread it, and then as nature goes as a wave up and down, it will go down. And then here is the key part of what I found, like this was like groundbreaking for me, that soft penis is amazing. It can feel pleasure. It can be powerful. You don't need to be ashamed of it, and your partner can appreciate and love it. And and yeah, it's just I'm just that was such a big breakthrough for me. So when I talk about peaks and valleys, is that the peak being like you are erect wherever you are, you're going to fully erect, and then somewhere without ejaculating, you will start to go down. You will lose some of your erection fully or part of it, and then you enter into a valley. And there's total treasures on that valley part too. And we'll talk also about that later.
And to mention at this stage, because Timo's already introduced the idea of energy, some of you may not really be connected to this word, or what does it mean? What does it feel like? So basically, it's when there's movement inside of your body that's tangible, that you can say, okay, like I'm feeling tingles, or I'm feeling pulsation, or I'm feeling vibration. This is energy. It's an expression of energy. Everything is made of energy. Everything. These walls, this floor, my body, the sounds that you hear, everything is energy. But when we're talking about sexual energy and having that be in the pelvis and be concentrated there, and instead of that to move it around, well, that will just mean that instead of all that pressure and tingle and all that buzz that's happening in your pelvis, in your pelvic area, then and we'll discuss how, but then that needs to spread. Otherwise, of course, it's going to want to come out and ejaculate. That's normal. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the last point I want to make, and we'll also talk about that more into later, is there is really helpful to be a balance in the nervous system, in the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. You need to have some of the flight or fight running into you to be erect and to be energized. And you also need to have some of the relax and digest there, so that it won't go into this pressure kettle of blowing up at some point, that it can expand. You can relax into it. And there's a balance there in the nervous system that is helpful for this, and there's a few practices we're going to talk about later, which can help you like find that or cultivate that.
Yeah, that balance between parasympathetic and sympathetic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so one of the things that I often end up saying to women, those in women's bodies, is take responsibility for your sexual energy. Mm-hmm. Take responsibility for your arousal. Mm-hmm. So, it actually applies to those in men's bodies too. So it's important that you are able to connect to your own arousal, and it's yours. Claim it as yours. It's not dependent on whether you're with a partner or not, whether she's turned on or he's turned on or not. You need to be able to stay with yourself and your center. It doesn't mean that the other person doesn't exist, of course, if you are with a partner, but that you need to make your own body and your own arousal the center, at least until this really becomes a choice. Because what most of the time happens is that when your partner, and let's say it's a woman partner, when she starts to peak, when she starts to get hot and start to get really sexually aroused and express it, or at least just feel it, or go into orgasm, then that's the point where usually the man goes like lightning, and he doesn't know what hit him, kind of thing. So, and that's physically challenging. I understand that, which is why you have your solo practice. And part of that solo practice needs to be that your arousal, getting aroused, staying aroused or not, is yours. And to recognize what your arousal is about, whether it comes with an erection or not, whether it leads into, whether it ends in ejaculation or not, but that's your main focus. And then your partners, from that place of, I know where I'm at, and then I can connect to my partner and hold where I'm at. So it's an art, it's a balancing act, but this is really important.
Yeah. And that is a case for a lot of men, and it certainly was a case for me, that I can feel very well her. I can feel where she's at with her arousal, sometimes even before she can, before you can. And while that's really beautiful, it has a downside that I had a really hard time feeling where I am at. So my arousal would follow her arousal, and I would need her to be aroused for me to get aroused. And I know this is the case for a lot of men. And also to be okay with it, that you have your arousal and you can get aroused without you needing to do them something. Like, I have this wiring, and I know a lot of men have this wiring, that when the woman is touching me and I'm getting aroused, there goes something in my head that now I need to do something. Like, I can't receive and just feel my own arousal, that somehow I need to include her in and her arousal in this. And yeah, so it's really important to work on your own, to recognizing your own arousal, and first even finding that there is an arousal in you without you using your mind, without using fantasies, without using porn, that there is actually arousal in you that comes from your body and is not dependent on anything else out there.
The second thing I want to say, that usually I say to those in women's bodies, but it absolutely applies to those in men's bodies, is because I hear a lot of the time that, oh, it's not the same if I'm self pleasuring, it's not as exciting, it's not interesting, I get bored. And for those in men's bodies, usually the self pleasuring is about a release of energy. It's a nightcap. It's the way you're going to fall asleep. If you've had a really stressful day, you release some energy, or it isn't so that you can explore your pleasure necessarily. Yeah, it's more about releasing, or it's an automatic that we spoke about, that you learned as a teenager. So to learn to love yourself passionately. This is what I tell the women that I work with, and it applies 100% to those in men's bodies, because you might start to, if you start to go into the solo practice after some time, or right at the beginning, or before you even start, there might already be the resistance, like, why would I want to do that? Oh, that's so boring. Or, touching myself is like, I'm not getting anything out of that. So to stick with it and to find that, okay, why is it that I can get aroused if I'm touching somebody else, but not if I'm touching myself? And to really inquire about that, and to find your way through that, just like those women's bodies also have their journey with this. We as humans have our journey with this, to love ourselves, our bodies, and our pleasure, discover our pleasure with a passion for ourselves, not just because I don't have a partner, or because I need to cultivate this, so I'm going to do this. No, it's really to feel the love you have for yourself, and to be passionate about it. That, yeah, I'm hot. Yeah, it's true. So yeah. Okay.
So then the actual practice what I did, and you can modify and you can come up with your own. But what I did was, I think it was 3 weeks that I set aside time in the morning. It was half an hour or so, and I would start to pleasure myself. and bring my erection to somewhere around 5 or 6.
Your energy, your sexual
My
energy.
sexual energy, if there was the point of no return of coming from 0 to 10 ejaculation, somewhere there that it's safely below the point of no return. And then to cool it down and see what happens. And then repeat that like 3 times. And remembering all what I said before of how doing it, just letting it come through your body, not using your mind, using like spreading the energy, and yeah, to really take that time and really keep at it. And then, okay, if you ejaculate, also no judgment, then you found out where your 9 is, and you'll know better next time. So yeah, to really do the self practice and keep at it. You want to say something more about that?
Yeah. So it looks like this.
Yeah, it's a
right?
way.
And the theory behind it is that if you get over the first hump or the first hill, and you go into a valley and you come back up, you're not starting at point 0, right? You're starting from up here. And then you go into the next valley and you're not starting from down here. Even if you've lost your erection, there's already energy that has been cultivated and is still maintained in the body. So even if you've lost your erection, that doesn't mean that that's gone.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're training your body to go through waves of yin and yang, and actually to keep increasing its capacity for more and more to contain more and more sexual energy without meaning that I need to now release it. I need to now, it's full, poof, it's got to go. So that's what you're doing.
Yeah. So then the exciting part, when you feel comfortable enough, then you're going to start practicing with your partner. And first thing is to communicate. Communicate to her what you're doing, that you're having this kind of practice if she doesn't know already, and why you're doing it, and that you would really love her support on this. And Taki'h will talk to later how she can support that. And then just take it as a fun exploration, like you're on an expedition with like 2 curious kids, like observing what's happening and leaving all judgments and all that anything should happen aside.
I gotta hold this.
And know like if there's an erection or not. And I really love Bruce Lyon's quote on this, that your erection is not yours. The goddess gives you an erection and goddess taketh away. So when you don't take credit of having erection, but now I have an erection, then you also don't need to feel bad when you don't have an erection. So start slow and with patience, and rather aim on the safer side of where you were in your solo practice. Like rather take it down sooner than you took when you were practicing with yourself, because there's other factors in play.
So if you were practicing up until 9, like getting as hot and heavy with yourself up until 9, and then backing off and going into the yin space, and also the yin space, just to say, this is where we feel a lot of expansion actually in the valley. In the non-doing is where our energy can expand incredibly. So after the doing or after the yang, so be very alert during and aware during the yin, during the valley, that that space of expansion, all the energy moving and all of that. So if you're used to going, if you've managed to get up to 9 and then still come down and then go another 2 rounds like that, and you've done that consistently every morning for a month, then with your partner, you might want to aim at 6, not, not 9.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that there's anything wrong, absolutely not, with going hard and fast every once in a while. But if you're practicing this in earlier stages, it might be counterproductive to go hard and fast.
Yeah.
So there'll be peaks and valleys. And then when you hit a valley, and you will hit a valley, then the practice comes for the man is really then comes to practice of no self-judgment, of no expectations. Because the expectation is and was for me for a long time that, okay, this is a valley, so I'm not erect, so I'm just waiting here to get erect again. And so then I'm missing the whole valley because my mind is in the future waiting to get erect again. And what usually happened is at some point, like, I wouldn't get erect because I was waiting to get erect. And then when I let go of okay, I give up. I'm not going to get erect again. And the moment I let go of even the idea that I'm going to get erect again, I did get erect. And I'm not saying that it is better to be erect than not erect, but just to don't make it a goal, or don't have any judgments around not being erect. And then, practicing with your partner, take pauses, like pause and feel. And that can also be something really new, that you would actually be inside and stop and see what happens. And and here also, if it happens that you ejaculate, celebrate it. I celebrate it. Great.
I remember when we were together in the beginning, and he had been practicing solo practice, and then we were in that space where he was wanting to not ejaculate at that moment, and then all of a sudden he miscalculated, or he wasn't able to stay centered with his arousal and was following mine. And then all of a sudden he's ejaculating. He's like, oh, and then he starts saying, I'm sorry. And I'm like, do not ejaculate in me, apologizing. Like the last thing you want to do, those in men's bodies, is apologize while you're ejaculating. So if you're ejaculating, like whether it was planned or not, whether intentional or not, whether you saw it coming or not, all right, here we go.
Full pride in it.
Yeah, be proud of it, enjoy it, celebrate it, and by all means, do not apologize. It's an honor.
Yeah.
Your semen is sacred. It's beautiful. It's seeding. It's love, and there's nothing to be sorry about. It wasn't intentional, but still nothing to be sorry about. And that's not the energy you want to send into her yoni.
Use it as a body lotion or something. It's really good for that. Or
For example. Okay. So that's about men's bodies. Was there something?
Yeah, I think that's about it. We'll get back to
we'll get back to the men. So for those in women's bodies who are wanting to support your partner, so one of the things that is very important for you to keep in mind is that he is going to feel your sexual energy, and he is going to feel your arousal, of course. Whether he can stay centered or not is a different thing, but he will feel it. And so if you want to support him, then you need to be able to drop your sexual energy. What does that mean? It means in that moment where he's saying, okay, I need to slow down, or I need to stop, or I need to, I need to take a pause, I need to go into yin, whatever he's indicating in that moment, you drop everything. So it's not one of those moments that you see like, don't sneeze, don't move. Yeah, it's not that. Hopefully it's happening before that moment comes, but you just drop desire. And this is where I hear from women and they're like, well, but I was just getting into it and now I'm about to have my orgasm and why do I have to stop? Okay. Yeah. So if you want to support him, you have to drop your sexual energy in that moment. And the beautiful thing is that you can always just bring it back whenever you want, and that you're fully capable of doing that, whether you can or whether you know how to or not, but you can. And it's you're there in support in those moments. So it's not about being selfish in those moments. And not only to drop it, your physical external movements, but also your desire and also your mental desire. So I had a partner for Timo some over a decade ago, and this is how I learned, 15 years ago, that I learned that it's not just enough that I stop moving. It's not just enough that I stop making sounds. That's not enough, because when I would do that and yet I would hold on to desire in my mind, like I would start thinking about it and like just enjoying, like in my mind, he would still ejaculate. And when I could drop everything and just be empty in full presence, loving presence, but that's it, empty. And I had no thoughts left also, like that was the last string. Then he wouldn't ejaculate. And it was so consistent that he didn't know what was happening inside my head. Only I knew, and I couldn't justify it. I couldn't explain it in any other way than, yeah, I didn't drop sexual desire completely, my sexual energy completely. And so of course he needs that support. So that's for you if you're in a woman's body. Another thing you can do if you're in a woman's body to support, if you're the partner, basically, it doesn't matter also if you're in a man's body, if you're on the receiving end of the sexual energy and the sexual act, is to ensure and to show, not just in words, but to really wholeheartedly love soft cock. And some of you probably are already doing this, and that's wonderful. Most of those in men's bodies have a really hard time loving their cock when it's soft. In our society, the conditioning is that to be a real man, you need to be hard. You need to be on. You're on. Like, whatever, if a tiger's coming, or if you need to make love, or if you need to, whatever the thing is, but you've got to be on, and on erect. You need to be erect. So being a real man means being hard, being erect. So there's a lot of millennia of deconditioning around this, that you can still be a real man, be a full man, or be in your masculine and be soft. And that is also powerful. A soft cock is also powerful and is also fully accepted and fully loved. So this is a big role that we have as those in women's bodies, especially as supporting partners, to ensure that there is no judgment, there's no teasing, there's no, any of that stuff going on around if he loses his erection, or if an erection is not coming because of having gone down, and then that's kind of complete for him for then. It's fine, that's great. And actually, you can continue to still also make love with a soft cock if you want. But okay, different moment. And the last thing that you can do as someone in a woman's body, in particular in a woman's body, is relax your yoni. Like, relax. Like as if you're exhaling. Your yoni lips are. So many of us in women's bodies tend to contract or do all kinds of PC moves, or just because we're aroused, the yoni's pulsating, and so just relax the yoni, because the more she's pulsating or the more she's tight around him, the more challenging it will be for him to pull back from the arousal. Mm.
So then some other practices that kind of support you besides the self-pleasuring practice. So basically anything that helps you feel your body and move energy. So breath.
Right. So many of us are used to breathing quite shallow. And so when we get aroused, it's like all of a sudden, and so that is going to most likely lead into an ejaculation without choice. So for the breath, you want to have long exhalations. So if you feel like you're going into and so you're focusing on the exhalation being long, and that will help cool down your nervous system, help you relax more instead of the this is like the building up stage. It's just charging the body, relaxing the body, cooling it down is and you want to open and relax the mouth. Yes, okay. So you can use that kind of breath. That if be alert when for those who are practicing to have a choice. Then when you start to notice your breath accelerating and you matching it, okay, how is my breath when I'm at number 6? How is my breath when I'm at number 7? And then you can very directly hold your escalation of your arousal by having long, deep exhalations.
Yeah. And there's one really nice practice you might want to try out to see how are you breathing while penetrating. Like the normal thing I would say is to exhale, like pushing energy out while you're thrusting out in. Like, and to shift that to actually pushing, going in with your cock to the yoni and actually inhaling. And that can really like be something really nice to explore, to reverse your breath. Yeah. Okay, then the next one is sound. Okay, when you hear a couple making love somewhere, what do you hear? You hear the and the man? Nothing. Even he's not there. And
we've been in hotel rooms. Yeah. We travel a lot. We've been in rooms or in group rooms. Yeah, in venues, and somebody will be making love, and we don't hear the man. It's like, is she alone? Is there a guy in there? Is there somebody in there?
And there's such a conditioning around being loud. So that's something really for the men to start using their voice. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the techniques around breath is that because it is vibration, it can serve as a vacuum to move energy up and out instead of down and out. So if the sound is coming from here, it's more heady or nasally or then it's not going to support you so much with this as a vacuum of moving the energy up and out. But if you allow the breath to come from and the way you can tell is you can, for example, right now you can make a sound right now and see how where it can vibrate in your body. Like you can place your hands over different parts of your body as you move down. And allow the vibration and see where in the body, how low can you get that sound through the body. And what would it sound like if if your genitals could talk, if your genitals could make sound, what would that sound be like? Yeah. And so it's like that you're allowing sounds. And so when you are in the lovemaking or in the solo practice, if you keep your mouth zipped, if you, or you're just, or it's just during the ejaculation, basically, of like, oh, or whatever it may sound like, if that's the only time you make any sound, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to be able to move your energy, spread your energy, have whole body orgasms or multiple orgasms, feel pleasure throughout the body, and last longer for yourself, have more pleasure for yourself. It's going to be much more difficult if you're not allowing sound. This is a really challenging one. It's something we get conditioned as children, those in men's bodies and women's bodies. Be quiet, don't disturb, you're being too loud, people are, tired or resting or whatever. Shh. And especially when it comes to sexual sounds, the whole how did you start masturbating, or when you first started to have sex, and that you went into quiet sex, because there might be, a roommate. If it wasn't your partner, if it wasn't your parents, it might be your roommate or somebody that. So yeah, to allow the sounds. If you is such a problem for you, if this is really a difficult thing for you, then what you can do is at least make sound on the exhalation. So this can be a bridge for you. So use it. So you're having long exhalations, which gives you a chance to have a nice long sound come out. So go ahead, practice that. Just give it a shot. And this will help your energy.
Yeah. And the third friend then is the movement. And that's also a tricky one. We men tend to we hold it, and then and there's not a lot of movement happening except the thrusting. There's no other movement happening. To start including also more fluid movements and also all kinds of movements into your self-pleasuring and also into your lovemaking.
So if you're in a man's body and you're practicing this with your partner, or also when you're alone, but especially when you're with your partner, you want to be in a position where you have control over your movement. So if she's on top of you, this is going to be much more difficult. Right? So focus on times when you can move, positions where you can move freely. And if you're the kind that's used to just, thrusting, just the hips going like this and nothing much, maybe you're just holding on, that's about it. I invite you to feel like you are an overcooked, that's how I put it, an overcooked spaghetti noodle. Overcooked. And so you is holding that overcooked spaghetti noodle and going like this to it. So that your whole body can start, you can still be penetrating, but your whole body is going into these more undulating, curvy kind of movements. And if you think of a pressure cooker, like a rice cooker, okay, it has a lot of pressure and it builds up and it's boiling, or, it's heating up. And if it didn't have that steam on top of it, it would blow, literally would blow up. That's what happens to pressure cookers when they can't let go of the steam. So your steam is either movement, sound, breath, or it's ejaculation. But that energy is gonna move. So help it move, and it's very beautiful when you're on top or you're in some position where you have a lot of movement and you are allowing that movement, and you can see right away, you can feel right away that this is making a huge change. It has an effect. Now with movement, also I mentioned the position where it's more difficult for you to be able to move freely. Also, if you're practicing with a partner, choose positions that are less tempting for ejaculation. So there might be a position where it's particularly arousing for you. This will make it more challenging. So if that position, for example, is from behind, so-called doggy style, if you're from behind and you're looking at your partner's back, this might be more challenging if that's the kind of position that is going to really skyrocket your arousal. quickly. So then you don't know if you're at 6 or 7 or 8 because you're gone. So just keep that in mind. Don't make it more difficult for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, let me just what that combo can look like. Maybe you can also So it can be, we're trying to stay in the screen and stay in the screen. So letting your body move and breath and sound. So join us. So us doing it isn't going to support you, so you do it also. And remembering the long, deep exhalation to calm it down. Just now letting that rest if you were joining us and seeing how your body, close your eyes and see how your body feels now. Hopefully, if you were really engaged, it does feel more energized, but all over energized, versus when it's just focalized around the pelvis with little or no sound and an automatic type of breathing. Yeah.
So we continue with supporting practices. Anything that's about pelvic floor. So it's a key thing to relax your pelvic floor. So anything that you practice with your pelvic floor is also helping you to relax it. Yeah.
So with pelvic floor, we're referring to the PC muscles. So if you, for example, feel like you want to go to the bathroom and you're holding and you go like this is pelvic floor PC muscles that you would want to engage. Strengthening your PC muscles is going to give you better recognition of where you're at with your arousal. It's going to give you more refinement in being able to gauge and increase, enhance, or decrease or stabilize your arousal. So having a strong connection to your pelvic floor, to your PC muscles, and also to being able to fully relax them, to the way I was talking to those in women's bodies with their yonis, or just same, and that includes the anus, because when you go into ejaculation, the PC muscles, the pelvic floor has the muscular reaction of contraction along with the anus as well. So this is something you want to then send your body the message that we can relax. So I start getting aroused. I'm getting at 6, 7. Ooh. And then otherwise, in your self-practice, you can contract and release, and start to feel the subtle vibrations, the subtle sensations, physical sensations around your pelvis and your pelvic floor, so that you get to perceive the sensitivity, your sensitivity perception increases of what's going on in your pelvic floor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then but just remembering not to use the PC muscles to force you to be more erect, like not to try to hold it and get more erect. Yeah.
So once you've understood that there's energy moving, you understand what energy is. It's moving in the pelvic floor, pelvis. It's building up. So then you want to spread it. So in your self practice, you will have spread it for yourself. Yeah, you will have moved your arms around your body, down your legs, to be able to spread your energy. One of the things that is often suggested is this, it's more of like, let's say, a yogic approach of moving the energy up. It moves, if it doesn't move down and out, it needs to move up and out of the crown. It needs to move up, if not all the way up, then somewhat up, but if we can move all the way up and up the crown. And while that's a very valid technique, that's not the only direction energy can move. It's not either or. Energy can spread in all directions. And that's how the beauty of full body orgasm gets cultivated is when it can move throughout the body. It's not just up through the central channel. So the different ways that energy can move. So I'm not gonna be able to, because I've already eaten today, so I'm not gonna be able to demonstrate this. But there is the practice of Uddiyana Bandha, a yogic practice that does support for the energy to be able to be moved up the central channel. So that is a valid practice, and it at least starts to condition your body that okay, it's not only a down elevator down and out, but it can be an up. Okay, so that is a useful practice, Uddiyana Bandha. You can see plenty of YouTube videos on doing that. You exhale fully and then contract the diaphragm, and then this whole area comes in, creates a vacuum, and you can engage your Mula Bandha, your root, close there, and then you can let that go, take a deep breath, and move the energy up. So it will have already been moving up, but you just continue it when you're inhaling. So it's the when you're exhaling, then you don't inhale, and you just contract and you create the vacuum so that when you inhale, it moves up. Okay, Uddiyana Bandha. Very useful as a retraining that to your body that energy doesn't just move down and out. Absolutely. Now, what else you can do? You can do straw breath. So you breathe through a puckered lips. So you would want to, of course, engage the back, like, so it's not like, yeah, you're not military style. Do it with us. And now when the next inhalation like that, open up the arms. Do it with us. And now hold a little bit before you exhale. So if I'm going to just open up the arms. You can take space where you're at. Open up the arms, your wings as far as possible. You're letting your body know that energy can move sideways, outwards, expand horizontally. So again. And now also moving it up. So you can move your arms in any which direction, assuming you are in the act right now of having sex, of having penetration. Yes, you can do this in the act. Mm-hmm. So in that moment where it's starting to escalate, you're at 7, you can say, okay, straw breath. Yeah, and supporting partner, you can be moving your arms, your hands on his body, on his chest, up his back, massaging here, just helping the focus of energy to shift from the pelvis to throughout the body. The same thing that he's practicing on his own, you can support him to do. And of course, before you even start lovemaking, before you start the penetration, it is part of lovemaking, but before you start the penetration, you can already be massaging him and helping awake different aspects, different parts of his body so that there's more aliveness there waiting for all that energy to be moved into. It's already there, the doors are open, the cells are open, the muscles are open, the energy portals are open for that energy to move there.
Yeah, or have a little bit of breathing practice before that. It's a really beautiful way to waken up and going from that into lovemaking. You'll notice that there's a difference.
Yeah, so you can sit in front of each other and do the straw breath and opening before. I mean, as part of your foreplay, I don't like to use that word, but as part of your lovemaking before penetration, and you can also continue it in penetration. There's nothing wrong with it, which is also why he needs to be in a position where he can do this if he's underneath a lover, then it's going to be much more difficult. Yeah. And then there's microcosmic orbit. So we're just naming 3 basic exercises that you could learn, you can use as tools for moving energy. Microcosmic orbit is a popular, well-known, tons of YouTube videos on this and books. Taoist practice, microcosmic orbit. You're moving energy from the root up the back of the spine, up to the head, hold, exhale down the front of the body as if it's a waterfall, moving down all the way down to the dantian and back up. And so you're making a loop or an orbit, microcosmic, it's within your body, and you're circulating your energy. So within the body. So one thing is to help expand through the energy body and through the physical body in every which direction. And another is to just allow the energy to circulate up and down within your own body in a loop. And you can practice this again on your solo practice. You can practice it before penetration and during penetration and after penetration to help the energy move in every direction. And again, we're not going to go into very specifics about it. There's plenty online, and there are also many teachers you can turn to for that. So those are the 3 practices. And yes, you can do all of it, including Uddiyana Bandha, during lovemaking, during penetration, before, during, and after penetration. And yeah, the last thing I'd like to say is, because we've been talking about useful practices, another useful practice, the last useful practice I want to say is to recognize and give yourself credit. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that now I'm not going to ejaculate until like for a year. Okay, that's a very unrealistic goal that you just set for yourself, and you might be setting yourself up for failure. Most likely you are. So it's not mind over matter. It's not mind over body here. We want the collaboration of all parts. So let's say there's a time where you would normally ejaculate and you choose not to. And maybe you totally stop having penetration at that point also, because then you just can't continue. It's too hot. Perfectly fine. Or maybe you stop for some time going to yin and then keep going, but you didn't ejaculate. So you consider that a success. You consider that a victory. You consider that, hey, I didn't ejaculate, and I chose, and it was a choice. It was a real choice. And then maybe next time I choose and to ejaculate, and that's perfectly fine. But that to recognize when I would normally, out of automatic, whether physical automatic or just emotional automatic or whatever, and I'm choosing not to. Now, for behavior change, to lose any addiction, because ejaculation can be an addiction, physically, hormonally, emotionally, to break from any addiction, the suggestion is to go 7 weeks for the physiological shifts to happen inside of you. So that would mean no ejaculation for 7 weeks. Once you break that addiction, you can ejaculate again whenever you choose, and you don't have to go the 7 weeks to prove it that, okay, now I've broken my addiction. You see what's right. You see what's right for you. And there's a lot of talk about that you shouldn't ejaculate and this kind of thing, and it's really sad to hear people suggesting this, because and then they quote authors and so forth, and even Mantak Chia in his book The Multi-Orgasmic Couple has a quote right in the beginning, the first chapter, I think, or something like that, where it says to ejaculate, to have a healthy, lasting life, because for the Taoists, the ejaculation has to do with life force energy, and that you're losing your life force energy when you ejaculate. So the older you get, the less life force you have access to, and so then you want to maintain more of it. So, and even there it says that for to have a healthy, long-lasting life, you can still ejaculate twice a month, which says never ejaculate again in my life stuff. I don't know where that comes from. And in his book, he says, in that same book, that for someone who is 20, you can ejaculate every 4 days. For someone who's 30, every 8 days. For someone who's 40, every 10 days. For someone who's 50, every 20 days. So it's not about never, but it's about having a choice.
Yeah. And what we're telling here is that it then will be a real choice after the initial practice stage of getting rid of the addiction and the wiring in your body, and then it will be a real choice. And then I want to say that when you ejaculate, it does make a difference from what space you ejaculate from. It's like, yes, we also get this question of do you lose energy when you ejaculate? So what I found out is that if I feel abundant in my sexual energy, I feel very full, and then I choose to ejaculate. It's not one of those ejaculations where you just want to turn over and fall asleep. It's actually, I'm not feel that I'm depleted, I'm losing energy. I can actually continue very soon. I'm almost 50. But if it comes from a need to ejaculate, like that I need to release, then there is this crash, this drop, that there was something I needed to release, and then I released it, and then the energy's gone. Yeah. So then I want to say a little bit more about energy, because this was for me in the beginning. And if there are people who feel like I don't have any energy because I can't feel that there's any energy moving in me, and like, what is that? So if you can't perceive it, this doesn't mean that you don't have it. So what helped me, and what helps in the beginning, is to just start visualizing it as something like maybe waves or tingles in your body, and then you will start to perceive it. And for me, how the full body orgasm is actually, I feel these waves of energy, like waves of tingling, going from all the way from my toes into my head and into my fingers and back, and it just like flushes through the whole body. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, tangible description
Yeah.
of what a full body orgasm in a man can feel like.
Yeah. And there's another yogic practice I wanna mention, and that I found very useful. So this comes back to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So this, that you want to have a balance between the flight and fight and the rest and digest. So there are some yogic practices like Trikonasana, where any one of you who practiced yoga with this kind of positions, that first it's hard to stay there. It's a stress. It's like you need your like willpower, and you're like sustaining it. And then at some point, when it's a longer time that you're staying there, it comes to a point that you just let go. And all of a sudden, it's not painful anymore. It's like you're staying there. Your body is still maintaining the position, so there's still strength in the body, but there's also relaxation. So that's the place where the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system are in a kind of balance that is going to be helpful for this practice. Mm-hmm. So you might want to get one of those. And for me, like the Trikonasana, you need to do it for some minutes usually to get there, not just a minute. I did it for like 5 minutes, and first it feels that it's impossible, but then when you get to that stage, it gets easy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we talked about helpful practices. So we also want to spend a little time on what we feel the practices that are not supportive for this kind of working with ejaculation choice. So, and I just recently came across a few of these on some men's thread, and it made me really sad, because I would never recommend any practice which aim is to make your cock less sensitive in order to last longer. Because that's not taking into consideration all parts of you. Yes, you will last longer because you don't feel anything, but you'll miss out on the whole range of what you can gain by wanting to feel more. And for example, there's this, in that thread was mentioned the sharpening of the knife, which aim was to really rub yourself, to make yourself numb.
Rub your cock.
Rub your cock, yes. And another thing not to do is when you're getting too close to ejaculation is to think your grandma, or think taking the garbage out, or anything that takes your mind away from the present moment, because that's just gonna take you somewhere else. You're gonna leave your body and you're gonna leave your partner, and that's not what we are talking here. We're talking about presence, full presence and awareness. And then there's this practice of, I talked about the point of no return, that the body starts to its sequence of ejaculating. Then there is this technique of called the $1 million point, that you can still press your perineum really hard, and the tubes run there, and you can actually stop yourself from ejaculating. But since the body is already in the sequence of ejaculations, what is going to happen is retro ejaculation, and you're just going to end up ejaculating in your bladder. And I don't see the point of that. It sounds horrific, and you ejaculated. And then I think it's given, but I'm going to mention it anyway, that to use any kind of drugs to make yourself numb, to use alcohol, or there are some kind of lubrications that you can put to make your cock more numb, or whatever drugs, or using drugs to make yourself more hard, Viagra or something like that. That's gonna make you rely on something external, and I would highly say that don't take anything that's going to make you rely on something that's outside of yourself, because then you're dependent on that. Also, something that can be considered on relying something outside of yourself is that you would ejaculate before making love in order to last longer, or that you would first ejaculate in making love so then you can last longer. And that's just going to wire your body into that, okay, you can't last longer before you have ejaculated. And that's just making more conditioning in your body. So these are some of the practices that I would stay away from.
Okay, so all right, bear with us. I think we have a bit more. I want to share about inner masculine and inner feminine, because Timo spoke in the beginning about the soul or higher self and animal body, this connection, and not to override the body, which is what usually happens with consciousness. So here also the feminine and masculine. I already spoke about, for women, dropping. So this is you dropping sexual desire, dropping sexual energy on demand, on the spot, fully, and emptying. This would be more of a masculine practice, to drop everything and just be in presence. And doesn't mean you need to be like steel metal, but empty. To empty of desire, empty of shakti, empty of energy. So, I mean, we're never empty of energy as long as we're alive, but of sexual desire, energy. So this is how the masculine, inner masculine in a woman's body can, if you're in a supporting role, can really help. And also for those in men's bodies, to engage your feminine. And for me, this is like the number one or top thing on the why. Going back to the why, your intention. why you're choosing to want to explore this, that it's gotta include your own pleasure, and it's your feminine, your own feminine, those in men's bodies, that's gonna be like, no, I want more. Like, so it's not about the woman. If you are in a sexual encounter with a woman, that her sexual desire to go longer, but your own feminine's desire to enjoy more pleasure, to enjoy more variety, to go into the web that Timo spoke about. So I don't know if you want to add something about the feminine for men, how it is in your body.
Yeah, for me, it was a key thing to start feeling more, because the feminine is the one who can surrender and who can feel. And also, this is a really nice thing to engage your feminine is then you don't have to be jealous about your if your partner is a woman, the woman's orgasms anymore, because you can have that kind of orgasms for your feminine. And then to speak a little bit, like there can be fear in men to go into their feminine, that somehow going into more to your feminine is going to make you less of a man. And it's quite the opposite. We talked about range, like engaging more parts of yourself is just going to be, there's going to be more of you who's there to enjoy. It's your feminine gets to enjoy, gets to have the peaks and the valleys, and gets to feel, and then your masculine gets to enjoy, to feel like fully on and fully penetrating, and there doesn't need to be a either or there. It's just about range and just about bringing all your parts into it. Yeah. And this is a subject we really love, and we've had some workshops on it, and Taki'h is holding a lot of workshops on this subject, so we're excited about this, and I think it's really applies here.
Yeah, we never really hear about people talking about how the inner masculine and inner feminine can support in this practice. But of course, the masculine in women's bodies, if you're waiting for the man to always be holding space or holding the masculine pillar, the masculine polarity in your relating and in your sexuality, then there's going to be very little room for him to be able to surrender, for him to be able to let go. And in order for there to be a full body orgasm, in order for there to be no goal, in order for there to be a web and extended type of lovemaking, there has to be a letting go. There has to be a surrender, and there's got to be an expansion, which means he cannot be the one holding the masculine polarity at all times. And you can just keep flipping, keep sharing that space. But those in women's bodies, you can practice just that I can hold. So it's very beautiful to give him that space if you are in a situation of a woman body, man body couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a key part of this practice, is how to surrender and let go and still have some kind of clue where are you with your ejaculation. But it comes with practice.
And this also gives more range to both of you, those in women's bodies and those in men's bodies, much more range in your lovemaking when you're not just dependent that the one with the penis is holding the masculine point and the one with the yoni is holding the feminine point. So yeah, there's a lot more range.
Yeah, and this also really needs now the cooperation of both parties, so that there is a space where both can explore a bit of expanding their way of lovemaking and what is lovemaking, and explore the feminine and masculine side, so that there won't come any judgments or fears around that. Okay, you were before this man who just penetrates, and now you're just wanting to surrender, and you're having your own orgasms, and yeah, just to have this open mind of of this is an exploration, and anything we discover new is not going to take away from anything we had before. This is just adding things to what you have.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So as you're exploring all this, you will probably have things come up. So this is what I'm going to talk about for a little bit because it's important that you are aware that things will come up. Um, if you are in a man's body and you are used to ejaculating as a way of emotional release, and you may not even know that you're doing that, you may not even realize that that's you, but you will find out once you start not ejaculating. Then, if you don't have another emotional outlet, if you don't have some kind of way of processing your emotions, feeling them, or releasing the energy, the pent up energy of the emotions, then it's going to be much more difficult for you to even do the solo practice. So, you need to find an emotional outlet, an emotional release, or emotional feeling processing space for yourself. And there's many things that you can do there, but just to know that you will probably face the frustration. You will maybe face some anxiousness, anxiety, fear, sadness, grief. All kinds of things can come up emotionally for you. So don't wait for it to happen, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, and then you realize where you're at. Do preventative and set yourself up to be able to process yourself emotionally before or while you're starting with your solo practice, so that it becomes a regular thing.
Yeah, and men really take notice when you're not making love and you have an urge come up to ejaculate. Like, when does it come up? So that gives you clues, like what has happened and where you're at when you feel the urge to go and masturbate, to ejaculate.
Yeah. And for if you're also for those in men's bodies, if you're feeling a particular tension in your solar plexus, and this if this is tripping you up, if you like a knot or like a pain or burning or like there's a fist going through this kind of, or just a stuckness, however you might describe it, in the solar plexus, this can be one of three things usually. Is it that it's threatening your sense of importance? Because through ejaculation, you felt in a very primal, anatomical, biological procreation of the species kind of way that I'm important, or that a possessiveness kind of thing. This is my property. In a very basic, again, we're talking the body's instinctual kind of ways. These are wirings that we have, and so it's not to just to ignore them or to pretend they're not there. So is my sense of importance being challenged? So that might be one telltale sign, is the knot in the solar plexus or the tension in the solar plexus. Another one might be mother issues. So one of the things that I have come across in supporting those immense bodies to get over this, sometimes even premature ejaculation, but also getting stuck on not being able to conform, to be able to develop, cultivate, that's the C word I was looking for, cultivate the ejaculation choice, is because there's a issue, again, it has to do with importance, but it's specific towards dominating, overpowering first woman in their life, mother, or something like that, very controlling mother. And so that might be sitting in the solar plexus, and that can also be a challenge that comes up, and that doesn't allow you to be fully in your power. Right? And a third thing is tension, just physical tension. You have no story behind it. You don't know what it's about emotionally or anything like that, but you still feel tension or stress in the solar plexus. So it's important to do deep breathing where the diaphragm can open up and this whole solar plexus area can have space. And also to massage. You can do self-massage. You can do self-massage where you take your own fingers and you go under the rib cage a bit. It's better if you're laying down and not on a full stomach. But you just massage around there, and also with your fingers underneath the wishbone, yes, the sternum here, so you don't want to hurt yourself, but a couple fingers underneath. There's a point here that also tends to accumulate a lot of tension. So really massaging this whole area between belly button and sternum, this whole area you can just at the physical level, and then of course whatever emotional processing you need to do, if it's a issue around importance or being in your power, or imprints that you're carrying about other issues, or dominating strong, not strong, and not strong is not the right word, but dominating or overpowering woman in your life. And another thing that really helps around the solar plexus is laughter. So, I mean, physically, it does move the diaphragm a lot and it helps let go. But yeah, so deep breathing or laughter, they call it laughter meditation, laughter yoga, or just be playful more and enjoy laughing and to release some of the tension there in the solar plexus. So those are some of the things that might come up if you're in a man's body. So a lot around emotions, basically, and there's the physical components. We'll get to the blue balls, for example, next. But if you are in a woman's body, some of the things that might come up is, and this came up for me, so I want to say that there's no shame in this if this happens, but you want to watch out for power dynamics that you have around making him come. So if he's not ejaculating, that maybe just like he has that primal urge of property of she's mine by ejaculating in you or on you, then you might also have the sense of importance that I made him ejaculate, or that if he doesn't get to completion with me, completion meaning ejaculation, then he'll go somewhere else. There'll be insecurity or jealousy or fear around this. So just to be aware that this might bring this stuff up, this practice, his practice might bring this kind of stuff up in you, and to be welcoming of it. It's an invitation, it's a welcome thing, it's something you get to look at for yourself. What are you, what do you have invested in his ejaculation, and to clean that out, to process that and clean that out. So working with ejaculation choice will bring up wounds and triggers and emotions for you, both of you, and it's normal to not pretend like it's not going to happen, because it is. And so to be aware of it, to anticipate it, and to have a plan for it. This is how I'm going to be able to process my emotions, and it's not going to be necessarily with you. It's going to be my own. You can do Osho chakra breath. You can do Osho dynamic. You can do shaking. You can just scream into a pillow. You can, whatever you know, you can do TRE. You can, whatever practice that you know of, you can resort to that, and be responsible for your own emotional hygiene. He's not responsible for you feeling good and secure, and not insecure, and she's not responsible for you having an outlet to process your emotions. You are each responsible for your emotional hygiene, just like you're responsible for taking a shower or brushing your teeth. Physical hygiene, so emotional hygiene. The last thing I want to mention that might come up is if you have beliefs around I can't succeed, I'm not good enough, limiting beliefs of whatever sort, they may come up and sabotage you with this. Like, you will use this in order to reconfirm that I can't manage this choice, or I'm not good enough to be able to do this. So just to be aware that if those are beliefs that you have, they may cling on to this project, to this adventure, and you don't want that. So to make space that this is an exploration, and we're like 2 5-year-olds, and or I'm a 5-year-old if I'm not doing this with my partner, I'm just doing the solo practice, and it's not meant to be intense. It's meant to be playful, and it's meant to reveal a lot of things for you, and it's meant to give you freedom instead of caging you more into your box of limiting beliefs.
Just meet in love, like put love first and leave everything else aside. And as she said, be the curious 5-year-olds. Yeah, so then want to mention a few common stumbling blocks. Like, so if these things come up, that don't be surprised if they come up. So one thing is that the evolution or development of your practice might not be linear or consistent. So you might be doing really great and knowing fully aware where you're at and it's going great. And then all of a sudden, poof, you're like at this point zero. And nothing is working. And that just might be that something else in your life happened and or something else. And it doesn't matter. Don't get discouraged. Just it will pick up and you don't have to start from scratch, even if it looks like it. And then the other side of that, okay, when you feel like everything's going well and good, and so also not to use that to start feeding your ego, that to make it into a like, oh, now I'm this guy who can do this and this, and I'm really advanced, and no, don't do that. Just like keep the curiosity, keep the like the humbleness of it, and because there's always new things coming up, and as everything changes, everything that also will change. Yeah, and then also another thing that could be a challenge is that okay, you're penetrating and you know you're fully aware where you're at with your ejaculation, and then you want to slow down or even stop. And quite like this might come as became a surprise to me, it might come to surprise to you, that actually when you stop, you're gonna feel more than when you're pumping. So that can come as a surprise that I was fully in my below 6 and now I'm stopping and I'm like going over. So this is also the beautiful part of slow love making and stopping and feeling that you actually do feel more when you stop. But in this sense, it might be a tricky thing.
So one way to overcome that is to actually practice slow love making, and so that you're not going from to nothing, because that's when yin will expand you, and as I mentioned earlier, and that's where you will feel a lot of energy movement. So if you're going more, if you it's more gradual, then you will not have that all of a sudden yin expands of energy. Yeah.
And then as you are making love for hours, you won't be erect for 5 hours or 8 hours. So you will lose erection. And then comes the stumbling block of what you do with that. Is then really like no judgment, no expectations, like just again curiosity how this feels, and not judging that it's something less when you don't have an erection. Is just a different phase of the lovemaking. And then like letting go, just letting go of any idea of anything that should happen, which basically you can have that attitude all the time, but especially when there's still things coming from somewhere back in your mind, that it is better when you're hard and you're penetrating than when you're not. And then what you already mentioned is when and if you happen to ejaculate. Yeah. Well, yeah. So again, celebrate it. Don't make it into anything to be ashamed of. Don't, just celebrate it. And then the last thing about stumbling blocks is the blue balls. I'm sure this is a pretty known term, but if somebody doesn't know, it's comes from being really hard and making love, just after being sexual, you'll hurt. Your balls will hurt, your whole groin will hurt. It can hurt up to like you can't walk, you can't put on jeans. And don't get discouraged when this happens, and don't be in fear.
So this is a common situation when you're first practicing, especially with the partner. And when he says growing, it's that inner thigh area where your pubic hair is, inner thigh area next to your balls. So yeah, it's very common.
Yeah, and this was like really scary to me in the beginning, but it's like, of course, there's this woman that I really love making love to, and I'm really aroused, and every time we make love, I end up hurting. That there's something wrong with the picture. That is my body somehow incompatible with her body, or my sexuality with her sexuality? And then just to expect that that might happen and not be afraid of it. And there's things you can do about it. It's usually that your body is just not used to holding that much energy. And what you can do is what we already discussed, is to spread the energy away from the genital area. And then when it does happen, you can massage your balls. And this might seem, to me, it sounded totally crazy that your balls are so hurting and then you're going to start massaging them. But actually you can, and actually it helps. And you can also massage the semen tubes coming up your groin. So we wanted to speak a bit about preventing getting the blue balls.
Yeah, because a lot of people talk about like, oh God, now I have blue balls, but you can prevent blue balls by doing the exact same thing, which is to massage. So you take the balls and you massage and stretch them down. You take your own penis, you can do this for yourself in your self practice, and you stretch your penis out in different directions, pulling. So you're really relaxing and stretching out this whole area, also the groin area, the inner thigh, and around the whole base of the penis. Is this whole area has so many tendons, and there's so much opportunity for energy, for a lot of tension to build up here. So you want to massage and relax it even before you start having penetration, and get yourself to the space of limping or not being able to walk, which will fade, which will pass with time. But or then if you're not with a partner, then this is something that you definitely want to take advantage of. That you want to do this as developing the space in your own body that it can hold more and more energy.
Yeah.
And one more thing that you want to make sure if you're in a man's body is that you give yourself, and you can do it with a wand for yourself. A wand, it's like a dildo, but it's not like a with a motor or whatever, vibrator. It's not that kind, but you can just get a wand. It's called a wand. You can look it up. It's more like crystal, and you can put it inside you. You can use your own finger. You can easily find your own prostate, and you need to give yourself prostate massage. Or if you're with a partner, your partner can give you prostate massage. When you're not ejaculating regularly, there is a fluid that will accumulate because of the arousal, but not ejaculation, in your prostate. That can cause your prostate to become inflamed. If it is the case, then you might face some health challenges. So in order to avoid that, you want to regularly, it's called milking the prostate. I don't particularly like that term. But you want to massage the prostate until to feel that there isn't a bulbous kind of a sac forming, that it's not it's not accumulating. And so then you just massage it, the liquid will disperse, and like this regularly. You want to make sure that you get or give yourself prostate massage.
And there's a whole world of having prostate orgasms, which we don't go into, but you can also, just to mention that.
Yes.
So one last thing we want to talk about is resensitizing the cock. So So this goes like, it works from like, you will have more pleasure when you have more, when you can feel more in your cock, and then you will start feeling more in your cock when you practice this. So it goes both ways. So we men are usually like, by ourselves and also maybe by the partners, we're touched hard and fast. And there's some sensitivity that's lost. And also, not only that, but we're just touched in our genitals. So there's some sensitivity lost in other parts of our body. So to start regaining that sensitivity with what we mentioned, with feather-like touch, also in your body and your cock, and you can do that in your self-pleasure practice, and you can ask your partner, and they can also support in that. And she's going to say about more of that later after this. But then also, what helps is when you go into slow lovemaking or even fully stopping, is to bring your full awareness to the tip of your penis. Like, nothing else exists in the world than your tip of your penis. And that will start to, you will start to feel all kinds of things. And that's really amazing. And you'll start to feel like parts of your cock, and you start to feel like where you are in her yoni, and you're going to start feeling parts of her yoni, and there's a whole yumminess there. And yeah, so a bit of me, yeah, I just a little story about sensitizing my cock. I have a kinky side to me, and early on in our relationship, I wanted her to pour hot candle wax on my cock. Not that there's anything wrong about that, but that was the intention that I needed to actually feel something in my cock. And from that into how I now can feel like all these tiny things of barely moving, and being really sensitive. It's been an amazing journey. Yeah.
Yeah, and most from what I understand, most of those in men's bodies feel their cock as one thing. It's like one thing. And so to be able to feel specific places on your cock, and to have the sensitivity and the awareness, the perception to pick them up. So there's a technique you can use to resensitize any part of the body, and I've made a 20-minute video, instructional video on that. You can watch that on my YouTube page under Practice of the Week, resensitizing any body part. And so it's through featherlight, soft, not featherlight, excuse me. It's through soft but firm enough that it can be felt but not pushed type of touch. And you can make circles, you can make caressing movements, and you can tap. And as a partner, it's a very beautiful offering to do that with your partner's cock, and to be in different areas until he can say where you're at, just like you would with a yoni massage. And you can do that as an exchange with each other. This is a technique we learned from John Hawkins. He's, I would say, the best that I've ever come across in terms of resensitizing your genitals. And the suggestion is that you don't go from that then to penetration, that you just let that be, for not for arousal but for resensitization, for feeling safe, and for expanding your sensitivity, your awareness of your genitals.
Yeah, and one key point for that for me was that there is no expectations of arousal there, to let go of any, that this is not for arousal. And this is like a yoni massage for men.
It's a cock massage.
It's a cock massage, but not the kind of cock massage
Yeah, it's not a
where
happy
you do
ending.
all kinds of twisting moves and milking and bishop and whatever techniques with lots of oil, which will end up you being erect just from the pure friction stimulation of it. And this was the first lingam massage that I was instructed to and received that had none of that had like zero goal on it leading to any erection, and that was really healing. And I would suggest to do it like that. Yeah. So we've gone a little bit over time already.
But this is basically everything that we wanted to share with you, and this is the highlights of everything that we know and practice and recommend. For us, it's a way to come to greater intimacy with each other, with yourself. So it's about being able to connect to yourself at a deeper level, know yourself better. And when you share your sexuality with a partner, it's how you can also go into much deeper vulnerability, intimacy, the unknown, the mystery, love, compassion. Such an incredible journey to discover with somebody, but also on your own.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope this gave you some inspiration and some like, yay, I want to practice this and explore this.
Okay, we're seeing some thumbs up. We know it's late, but if anybody has any comments or any sharings, you can wait. Let's activate that they can unmute themselves if they want.
Yeah.
Where is that? That's in the and your screen will not be shown. And then if you want to just type in an answer or a comment, can you get off that? Exit full screen.
Okay, that one.
Yeah. So anybody want to share anything or has anything to ask?
I'm working here.
Thanks a lot. Yes.
This was so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, you are now. Okay, anybody who wants to unmute themselves.
Yeah, we'll get you into a gallery view, so we're not just...
No?
No? Okay.
Okay. So if anybody wants to share anything typed or spoken, this is your chance. Okay, you're gonna try it. Yay! The point of loving a soft cock and how vulnerable it might make me feel as a woman was eye-opening. Yes. Yeah. Think about how vulnerable you feel, and when you're in a receptive mode and you're in a yin space, that's exactly how he will feel. Okay. All right. Anything else before we close? Okay.
Thanks, you. And we did record this.
Yeah.
So
yes, we'll put it up.
Put it up, and you can
also
revisit it.
So inspiring and useful information. Will explain. It was an enjoyment to watch and listen to you too. Loved your energy. Somebody has unmuted themselves.
Yeah, R2 here. I want to share my own experiences. Do you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
I want to share my personal experiences from withholding my ejaculation. I have been withholding myself from being ejaculated for 2.5 months. And this is kind of a new journey, new trip for me. And I kind of intuitively came to that position in my life that I need to, this is the direction where I need to go. And I am glad I watched this course, because this gave me new insights, and especially about this inner sensitivity, which Timo shared about, especially and this kind of compassion toward myself, because I'm kind of really straightforward when I'm doing something, and it's sometimes very judgmental, let's say, and I kind of I gained new thoughts and ideas about that. Yeah, I need to, as I'm going this trip, I need to gain more and more new understanding or new level of consciousness about how to be more, let's say, to accept myself more and more, and this new journey, and not be so judgmental or go into this kind of duality with this, because as I go further and further, there is this kind of tension is building up, that if I what if I am ejaculate now? I've been withholding for so long time. What happens then? And if I haven't, this is really, I feel this is really important to practice this kind of compassion toward myself, because if I don't practice it and I kind of fall after withholding myself for how long time, and that could be a really high fall.
Yeah.
And I just
we've known
kind of got an intuitive sense that this is, I need to to do this kind of another inner work too. And I want to share this this practice is in this Taki'h book, in the kind of first version of that one, what is meant for men only, not for the couples but for men. And there was this kind of practice of the Taki'h were talking about that the goal is to withhold ejaculation with your willpower, but before you get that, it could take many years to get to that. But if you want to do it, to assist it, you can kind of press. If you go into this peak orgasm, you can press this. Is this perineum place in your between anus and between your testicles? There is this kind of where the
$1 million point.
Yeah, there is this semen tubes going inside behind the muscles, let's say, and when you push it enough, I think you need at least two fingers, and you need to really push it hard.
Yes.
And you can prevent ejaculation, but you need to push for like 1 minute almost, because first there is pressure.
We know about it, but this is actually something that Timo was saying that we don't recommend.
Okay.
Because it goes against the body. It's like pulling. It's like driving, and in order to brake, you pull the handbrake instead of slowly braking, and it's actually not very healthy for your body to do that. And what mostly happens is that you do ejaculate. You have a retroactive ejaculation where you are actually ejaculating when you're going into your bladder because you've waited so long to get there. So what we actually recommend is to be more in the connection with your body. And then if you're that far, then instead of pulling on the handbrake, let the car go. Let the car go into the ravine or to wherever it's going. Enjoy the ride. It's done, and that's okay, because it's really not healthy for the body. And this kind of approach is not sustainable. It's like it's an emergency brake, like, and there's no reason why there should be an emergency. Okay, so you're going to ejaculate. Okay, enjoy. Now, of course, if you're putting yourself out that it's been 2 months, it's been 3 months, it's been a year, and we've met people who have gone into that space of that, oh my God, what would happen if I ejaculated? My whole world would fall apart. It's like, did you forget that you're actually making love? And it's supposed to be like, expansive and intimate and lovely and fun and rewarding in so many ways, and all you care about is like, if I don't ejaculate. So
and there's another question that.
Just that this is an important thing to engage your feminine about, just to surrender and to enjoy and to relax and to, it's okay that it doesn't have to be the typical masculine, like goal oriented, that I need to make sure I don't ejaculate. Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a question. What do you think about contracting the PC muscle to prevent it? Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, I think that goes under the same category of forcing something when you're too far, like forcing the ejaculation back when you're actually, your body is already wanting to ejaculate. So I would say, don't go so far that you have to do something violent to your body or contract, or then just ejaculate.
Yeah.
The whole thing is about being what is real, being with the moment, being real with the energies that are around you and following them and not forcing anything. That's what is our approach.
And also, if you are going to use the PC muscles, use them before as a way of training, as a way to develop the muscle there and your sensitivity and your perception, but not as a way of breaking. Yeah, and then there's a beautiful comment. Self-cocked is also very powerful. I mean, I've had some incredible orgasms, not clitoral orgasms, but orgasm from him just being soft inside me. I remember in the beginning, so the full comment is, soft-cock is also powerful, is something I would love all men to believe and trust.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, when he would go soft, he would pull out, and I'd say, where are you going? What happened? Like, why are you exiting? Why are you leaving? And he was just confused. Why would I want him inside of me if he was soft? And I was like, well, because that's just delicious.
Yeah.
And we even now sometimes fall asleep that way.
Yeah.
And he'll just go soft, and then we'll go into a deep yin and we'll just fall asleep, and then like a couple hours later, like, okay, we have to move. And it's beautiful. And also then in a woman's body, to feel him get hard again after he's been soft for some time, to feel that cock grow inside of you is also just so delicious. There's so many great reasons to love the cock while it's soft, as in all its shapes, forms, and statuses of erection or lack thereof.
And that was hard for me in the beginning also, because I needed to be fully hard to feel anything in my cock. So it takes a little bit time and practice to actually start feeling when you're soft, or when you're like quarter erect, or anywhere below being fully hard. So I know it's hard to appreciate it when you don't feel anything in it in the beginning, if that's the case for you.
And also, for speaking on the partner side, in case you think that you have to do this for your partner, when he's inside me and he's soft and he's just making these micro movements, like just minor, right? Because you can't do this. They're just micro movements. And because I'm totally focused in my yoni, that is just, and it's just so pleasurable for both of us, so orgasmic for both of us. And it's a soft cock and hardly any movement. So not more and hard means better.
Yeah. So there's a comment. Yeah, I tried through the PC contraction for a long time and went without peaking for about a year, but that path never led me to any full body orgasm or anything. Yeah, that is so beautiful to hear.
So this is important, that you can, yes, you may not ejaculate, but will you actually get any of the benefits other than you get to say you didn't ejaculate and so you'll live longer, perhaps? Yes, okay, great, wonderful. But you want to live longer orgasmically, happily, pleasurably.
Yeah, that's like only having your masculine on board and letting the feminine, like pushing the feminine out. So you need the feminine side to have the full body orgasms, to be able to relax into it, to surrender, to really feel. Yeah, it's key. And again, men, it does not make you less of a man if you're bringing more feminine. That's bullshit. Don't believe it.
Or that if you're soft.
Yeah.
Or if you don't ejaculate. Or any of these beliefs. Okay, well, and there was the last comment. Thank you. It was so helpful and clear. You're a great team. Thank you very much. We've been wanting to do this so that we can just get all this information out there. Thank you for being with us. It was beautiful and important to hear how I can support my partner and my inner masculine can be a part of this. Yes, yeah, for those in women's bodies. And actually, I wanted to say this. I didn't say it when we were going over it. Thank you so much for commenting on this. That this being able to drop everything is an incredible spiritual practice. An incredible spiritual practice. Because dropping all desire and not identifying with detachment from desire is like a key Buddhist guidance. And if you believe in the bardo, in the afterlife, this is what you'll be tested on. So it's like you get to practice while having sex. Yay for the afterlife. That's true. I believe in it anyway. So that you are, you're engaging, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, we have to stop. Nothing. Yes. Wow. That is mastery.
And I didn't share. I want to share one thing that I usually do when I get there, that I'm like 9 point something starting to ejaculate. I'll just like shake my head like crazy and scream, and that's really helpful, and it helps me to like be fine with my sound, and it does also spread the energy away from the genitals, and might look a bit crazy, but it does work, and I don't feel that it's any violence to my body.
So there's also another comment. After I learned to sublimate, I can have hundreds of orgasms in an hour. Men, learn it. You will never regret it. You will only regret you didn't learn it sooner. So sublimating is moving the energy up. It's moving your sublime, being sublimating, moving your energy up. And as we said, energy up is not the only direction. You want to nourish every cell from fingertips, toes, to your crown and beyond. Yes, so you definitely want to be able to move energy in different directions, and those were 3 examples that we gave of how you can learn to do that. Yes, definitely healing for me to receive all this about being lovable without performance. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, so would love to have this kind of masterclass to support women's sexuality, pleasure, and orgasms. Okay, yes. One at a time. 2 weeks ago, I did the masterclass on sacred blood, on our menstrual blood, which is something that those in men's bodies can also support. And now we were doing this for the ejaculation choice, and that's something those in women's bodies can support. And in both cases, it's something that couples can grow into deeper intimacy. So those are the 2 masterclasses we've done so far. You can get more information that we have out for couples on our YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that has a particular playlist that's just for couples, to work with your masculine and feminine, to work with not fighting, so we don't fight. And there's a Facebook group that we run that has a lot of free information in the unit section for couples. And also running groups on the masculine, on the feminine, for women, for men, for couples, running couples groups. So there's lots of information and stuff available already for free on our online. Just find us. Remember Yourself. You can look me up, Remember Yourself, and you'll find me. And otherwise, you're welcome to join us live, whenever that may happen again, somewhere. And thank you for joining us here. And
there's one more comment. I think I got enough inspiration from this to take the challenge to practice ejaculation choice. Just hoping the wife is agreeing. Of course she is.
So hopefully we've made it. Hopefully we've said this in a way that
the wife is also
everybody gets to benefit. It's a win-win for everybody when it's a choice. When it's a choice. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Love yourselves and love each other.
Kitas. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.